Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you a creepy scary story about an unlucky girl. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. And here we go. Fear. Sticky, bone-chilling fear. Fear possesses us in those moments when, more than ever, we need to hold on and control the situation. Fear turns into panic, restraining our movements and blocking our thoughts. If you panic, there is almost no chance of escape. Sitting tied up on the dirty floor, I thought only about how to survive. I tried to control myself, not to panic, and remembered. I remembered everything. 2 days earlier, I was on a shuttle bus. It was late and I was sitting alone. Only my grandmother was in the same bus. After I paid the fare, I turned on the music and was completely immersed in my thoughts. The rain was beating on the windows and the bus was moving forward. My stop. I got up and walked to the door. I'm very unlucky. The doors opened. I stumbled and rolled out of the bus, plunged into a muddy puddle. The bus drove past me and pelted me with a million muddy splashes. The rain turned into a downpour and poured down on me like a bucket. There was no umbrella either, of course. I got up and shook it off as best I could. It wasn't that far home, but I was soaked to the skin and would freeze to death. Not a good day. On the other side of the road, I spotted the grandmother who was on the bus with me. She got off right behind me. She was crossing the road, straining toward me. I decided to wait. Maybe she needed help. I look indifferent, but my heart is still kind. I am compassionate. I am too kind. It has often failed me. And now, too. Grandma came up to me. Are you all right? She asked. My voice is unpleasant, dry, rude, even. I'm fine, I mumbled. I don't like it when someone tries to help me. You're unlucky, Granny grumbled. Strange. It was as if she had read my mind. I decided to say nothing. I could not find something to say. My grandmother touched me in silence. My skin burned in that spot. I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, Grandma was gone. I looked around and decided there was no point in standing there. I didn't think much of it. I shouldn't have. Sighing, I staggered dejectedly home. My mother greeted me with gasps and groans about how clumsy I was. The vacations for me is not in the joy. Autumn, the rainy season. I've always hated autumn. With my sad thoughts, I didn't notice how I fell asleep. The dim autumn sun peeked through the window. It wasn't raining, and only puddles glistened on the ground and clear drops of rain rolled off the trees like tears. I rolled over on the bed and sank back into the saving land of Morpheus. I opened my eyes abruptly. Someone had woken me, but no one was there. Surprised, I sat up on the bed. I didn't feel sleepy anymore. I got dressed and went out for breakfast. It was noon on the clock. My parents wouldn't be here until the evening. I put the kettle on the stove. I didn't feel like doing anything. Not to eat, not to sleep, nothing. Somewhere inside me there was an emptiness and no feelings left. Nothing left. It happens to me. It will pass in time. The only thing that seemed strange to me was the smell. A pungent smell. It reminded me painfully of blood. Suddenly my eyes went black and I saw a stream of blood. The blood glistened in the sun. It was raining blood. On the bank of the river of blood stood a girl with white, even ashy hair. She turned to me. Empty and unreflective blue eyes stared at me. Death and blood will rule. You are given time. At night you will die. She whispered in a faint, lifeless voice. She disappeared, and I stood there trying to understand. I remembered that strange grandmother. The skin on the hand she had touched lit up with fire, and I could see the pentagram on it. With a shriek, I fell into the bloody river. My mouth immediately tasted metallic. I was drowning in blood. The vision ended, and I woke up on my bed. A dream? It didn't feel like one. Walking out into the kitchen, I saw that the kettle was almost bouncing on the stove. Not a dream, then. I turned off the kettle, leaned on the fridge, and rubbed my temples. I was tired, as if I hadn't slept, but had run a distance. She had to have breakfast after all. She cut the bread, cut herself. A little scarlet trickle ran down her index finger. That's her first blood spill. The first, but not the last. A thought flashed through my mind. The vision came to mind again. What was it about? Or was it a dream? Who was that girl? What does she want from me? What must I do? The questions. There are a lot of them. No answers. Do I have to figure it out? Or should I dutifully wait for answers? New questions bounced around in my head. Through the emptiness inside, a feeling flashed. A feeling of anxiety and even fear. Blood, scarlet and thick. It is shown beautifully in the movies, but in reality, I looked at my veins. In an attempt to push the thoughts away, I remembered the faded and lifeless blue eyes. The day had passed uselessly and tediously, just like most of my days. The night. I didn't want to sleep at all, so I just stared into space, sitting on the bed. I accepted death and dutifully waited for it to come, but the fear kept me awake. Maybe if I hadn't thought about it, I would have seen the door slowly open. Maybe if I hadn't thought about it, I would still be alive, at home, leading my normal life, leading my miserable existence. But I didn't notice. A chill ran down my legs. I felt someone behind me. Maybe if I hadn't thought about it, I would have escaped. But there was no escaping fate. I didn't even have time to turn around before I felt pain all over my body. I couldn't move. My eyes went dark, blood trickled from my nose from the strain, and I blacked out. I woke up in that basement, pain and stiffness all over my body, tied to a rusty radiator. Silence, dead, frightening, arousing fear. I try to free myself. In vain. The door slowly opens. The already familiar cold pierces through to my bones. So familiar. Deja vu. I wait obediently. What else can I do? A figure stood out of the darkness. It was that girl. Only she wasn't so young anymore. This girl looked about 20 years old. The same white hair, pale eyes. She walked toward me, barely touching the ground, as if she'd flown up, and tears rolled from her eyes. Bloody tears. I didn't mean it, really, she shouted, turning to me. I'm sorry, she whispered, and tears gushed from her eyes, forming pools of blood on the dusty floor. Let me go, I whispered pleadingly. I can't, really, she answered me. The curse is on me. I have to. I don't want to go to hell. Her previously dim eyes expressed panicked fear and despair. Forgive me. She walked silently toward me, making an incision along my arm. My hand was flooded with blood, the scarlet blood. She did not stop there. She began to remove the fingernails from my fingers. A hellish pain pierced my whole body. I screamed shrilly. It's all useless. I knew it, but I couldn't stop myself from screaming. She started to cut off my fingers. The blood spurted out in a single red stream. Pain covered my eyes. I didn't know if I was screaming. I begged for it to be over soon, but fate was not merciful to me, and my suffering continued. The girl ripped my back and reached for my spine. Death was near, from painful shock or loss of blood. I hoped it would happen now and I wouldn't feel pain, but it kept happening. The floor was sticky with blood, combined with the dust and dirt. It turned black. She ripped my stomach open and let me go. I lay in a pool of blood, dutifully waiting to die. I was alone in the room, and only the pentagram on my arm glowed, calling me to hell. It was an ordinary day. Who would have thought it would turn out like this? They must be looking for me by now. And then they would find my corpse, bury me, and never find the culprit. I'll never know. I don't want to go to hell. Tears rolled down my cheeks. There was fear in my soul, a hellish pain through my body. The agony of death had begun. Convulsions, blood gushing from my mouth. I looked around the room, looked at the world one last time. I slowly closed my eyes and fell asleep forever. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.